Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on January 1, 2020 at 0118 in the morning, Eastern Time. God bless us, everyone. Many thanks to those of you who have been looking at my sort of my startup material here over the last week or so. There's a fellow named Kenny Ken who at least activated the comment in the comment section, but didn't leave a comment. Always good to have new people. Kenny Ken. I think I kind of know who you might be, but I'm not going to get into that. But you're welcome. Okay, well, the Christmas season is over, and now we have sort of like a few days of New Year's hoo-ha flurry to get past. Which really, the New Year's thing isn't really a big thing here in the U.S., but I understand that in the U.K. and particularly in Scotland, it's a really big deal. Except now I understand that because of all this, the coronavirus stuff, restrictions in Scotland, there's plans to send coach loads of people down to the UK or to England proper rather, so they can partake in pub life during what they would call Hogmanay or Hogmanay. I don't know how it's pronounced, which basically translates in any language into just a big giant sort of fucking 3-day drunk. Well, every now and again you got to do that. I can't say that. No, to me, well, New Year's Day is another day, Well, it wasn't particularly another day for Paul or Paul's mother in 1983 when she died at 6 in the morning. After having been watched essentially bleed to death all night. Oh, they got regular hemoglobin and hematocrits, and they watched it go down from I think it was around 12 and a half or 11 and a half when she was admitted down to, well, I think just before she coded it got down to somewhere under 6. Code blue, or whatever that hospital called it at the time. I don't know, maybe they should call it, code Jolly Roger. Since it's going to be the black flags of the skull and bones 80% of the time anyway. Even if everything's done right. Thumping and pumping, huffing and puffing, squirting. But don't save a vegetable. You aren't out there to save seed potatoes for the next year when you do that kind of stuff. Seed potatoes. That might be an interesting tactic for the people who are wanting to go out and convince people to sign these organ donor cards. Would you like to be a seed potato? This is how my brain works when it's allowed to live alone. Okay, well, again, the weird sleep-wake cycle persists. For example, I've now been up 25 hours. But That's only because I went to bed at 7:30 last night, uh, and got 5 good hours of sleep and got up around a quarter to one, this morning, meaning like yesterday morning, which is now 25 hours later. Well, 24 and a half hours later. Sometimes you just have to just stop fighting it and let God take care of you while you're, this is just this. If this is this what he's got in store for me, that's what he's got in store for me. Okay. Well, let's see. Thomas came up and saw me on the 20. Where's my thing here? Came up on the 28th. So I think I talked to you on the 27th. He came up on Tuesday the 28th, and we sat here and yacked for about three and a half hours and just carried on. He did do the one. He did help me. He went down and got my one of my two spare big 4,000 watt heaters out of the basement, because the one I've been sort of like my stalwart of about between 20 or 15 years died. It's the induction coil and the motor is what dies, and you could tell this thing was, sort of had to it's like I had to sort of stick a wire in there to spin the fan before I got, the motor would run, and I knew that this was going to be the year it would die, and sure enough it did. Fortunately, it died while I was here, in full vision of it. What happened was I heard the smoke alarm in the kitchen go off. Not the beeping that you often hear from time to time, but like this continual squeak. I was watching a movie on one of the streaming things, and I heard this. I thought, oh, that's going off in the movie. And of course, you're looking at the movie. What's the deal? What's the deal? And then I realized it's just right over here down the way, and. The motor had not completely stopped, but it was slow enough that the coils had overheated to the point that sparks were flying out the front of the heater box, and the heater box itself, which normally runs absolutely room temperature cool, was quite hot. Interestingly, no time did the circuit breakers slip. It was just. I knew it was getting ready to die, and it died. And thank God I was here to watch it die. And so I went over and I turned it off, and then spark stopped. But boy, this thing stayed hot. Oh wow. But again, over 20 years of service. Thank you for your service. Yeah, Thomas brought up one spare. That's the one I'd use that. The one he brought up, I'd use that in the basement from time to time when it got very, very cold and down there. Anytime it got down below 41, I would run the heater down there. 41 in the basement. By that time, it was usually like 15 below up here in the outside. And then I've got a brand new one in the box. It's 15,000 BTUs. If my furnace was, when my furnace worked, the furnace came with the house was working. That was a 15,000 BTU furnace. So I mean they're equivalent. If you ran it upstairs, the heater, the big red heater. I call it the big red heater. 4,000 watt, 20 amps, 240 volts. You could maintain the house at around 64 degrees Fahrenheit, which for me, it's cold, but it's fine. The pipes don't freeze, and all you got to do is put light sweater on or something, or put clothes on. I tend to run around here with not any clothes on. Okay. I have some mice running around, or I did. I mean, I may have finally finished them off with the poisons, but I'm sort of sitting here and you go, "Phew." And I don't know if that's a reflection of my glasses, and so it took me a while to realize, oh, phew. Then, phew. And so there were a couple there, and there were two different sizes, so and then phew, that over toward the refrigerator area, and then phew, back. So I've, in fact, over 36 hours, there were two decon bait boxes pretty much eaten down. They never completely eat them down to they always leave something, much like diners that leave food on their plates in restaurants. I'm not a poor man anymore, but I would never. Don't leave food on your plate. Don't. It's wasteful. Don't waste what God gives us. Period. Don't. I rewatched A Christmas Story the other day, and there are a couple of scenes where Ralphie and his brother and his mother and dad are at the dinner table, and the little brother who presumably refuses to eat for whatever reason, and his mother says, there are children starving in China. Of course, this is set pre-World War II, and the idea that some kid in the U.S. eating his mashed potatoes is going to somehow improve the lot of the starving children in China is ludicrous. And I remember I'm just old enough to remember hearing the tail end of some of that crap when I was like, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. I never heard that from any member, any of my family, direct family. But you'd hear other kids in school talking about that line of argument, or occasionally you could get the sort of the older teachers, there's people starving in China. What are you gonna do about it? More to the point, it's like one of the guys I ran with in high school. It was always so much fun because whenever somebody fed him a line of bullshit about, oh, you need to do this, and oh, we ought to do this. And he was very straightforward. He would always just look at me and says, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Very reasonable attitude, I think. He also said that when he died, he wanted to be, sort of burnt up, and he wanted his ashes mixed into dog food so that then he could put a sign up on his yard: shit on in life, shit out in death. Perhaps that could be the default epitaph for a lot of people, regardless of whether they were mixed into dog food or not. Happy New Year. Actually, speaking of Happy New Year, Tony Baldwin and I Skyped briefly this evening, and then Tony Pincham, Skyped, and his sister and brother-in-law were over with him for the New Year's weekend, and so I got to talk to all three of them. And then at Greenwich Mean Time, 12 or 00:00 Greenwich Mean Time, they sort of Tony walked his computer out to the front door, and they opened the front door, and you saw the fireworks going up all around. He sort of lives on a little hill over this valley where Workshop lives in a little valley there, and you got to see all the fireworks going up, and you got to hear them thumping and boom, boom, bang, boom, 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 boom. That was fun. And of course, Tony's in the midst of their big meals tomorrow. They're going to have their big meal tomorrow. Later today, more accurately, and Ann is a splendid. Ann and Tony are both splendid cooks. I mean, I've eaten both their cooking, and it's just they'll blow you out of the water. And it's fun to talk with George. He's going to officially fully retire, I guess, this coming July. He was thinking about doing it a couple of years ago, but then he decided to keep doing it because he likes doing. He's one of these long distance lorry drivers all over the UK, and he really enjoys it. But it's I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's a good physically aware guy, but he's about what I'm going to be 70. Tony's like 12. So it's like he says it's just I like doing it. I can do it, but it's great. I mean, he's seen everything in the UK essentially. Driving around, delivering stuff. I think it'd be a great job. Very demanding job. Bad on your back and prostate. When my friend and I hitchhiked around England in 1971, and we got picked up by a couple of these long-distance lorry drivers, and you're sitting on these bench seats, and it's just fine. But it's almost like there were no springs. It was like bang, 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 and then of course about a year and a half later, I ended up in medical school, and you realize that long-distance truck drivers have some of the highest incidence of just lower urinary tract problems, and then subsequent upper urinary tract problems, because they sit there and they get banged on, and then of course they hold in their urine, they hold in the urine. Even in the age now of filling up the 7-Up Sprite bottle with urine and throwing it out the side of they're still holding it in. And, it's just not good to hold it. Don't hold it in. Don't necessarily wear a diaper and wet yourself all the time, but don't hold it in. It's not, we're not designed to do that. Well, when we get older. And you're driving, 700 miles on a thing that's beating the crap out of your perineum for 10 hours a day. How did we get started on that? Well, since this is already a very eclectic little discussion here, where's my thing here? Tony Ballman tonight was talking about how they were going to, since they're going to get a frost out there in Tucson, they wanted to be sure and get all their oranges. They've got some orange trees in their yard, and I guess there's and there was like one fig. I said one fig, and so once I heard the word they had one fig, I got thinking about Amos, the prophet Amos, that described himself as an humble dresser of sycamores, which the sycamores, that's in that the Old Testament word for that we translate sometimes sycamores like a fig tree is. I mean, so but it's the same family of trees. It's like think of it as a ficus tree. The ficus, all the ficus plants you see in like your doctors or lawyers' offices. It's the same family of plants. But allow me to read you this about Amos has been getting some shit from the priests of the northern kingdom of Israel, as opposed to the southern kingdom of Judah. Herewith, then Amaziah, the priest of Bethel, sent to Jeroboam, king of Israel, saying, "See, it's like a presidential news conference. It's like CNN setting up the question, or saying, Amos hath conspired against thee in the midst of the house of Israel. The land is not able to hear all his words." It would be great if some commenter, some self-righteous commenter on one of these presidential news conferences said, "The East Coast can't bear so-and-so's words." I think it'd be fun. Like, we all know what happened if it was on the West Coast. It would fall into the ocean. So you wouldn't say that on the West Coast because it'd slide down into that trench. Maybe. So let's see. For thus Amos saith, Jeroboam shall die by the sword, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of their own land. Also Amaziah said unto Amos, O thou seer, go, flee thee away into the land of Judah, and there eat bread and prophesy there. Well, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good thing. I mean, bread. I mean, the average diet back then was at least a pound of bread, like a pound of bread. Take that, you gluten intolerant individual. Natural selection is left down there, I guess. Huh? So let's see here. But prophecy not again anymore at Bethel. This is Amaziah continuing. For it is the king's chapel and it is the king's court, meaning go just get back in your own place. Don't trespass. Then answered Amos, and this is what got all this started. Thus then answered Amos and said to Amaziah, I was no prophet, neither was I a prophet's son. That tended to run in families back then. But I was an herdsman. I love it, an herdsman. And a gatherer of sycamores. Some other translations or versions of dresser of sycamores, gatherer of sycamores, sycamore fruit. So he's talking about the fruit. Well, okay. And the Lord took me as I followed the flock. And the Lord said unto me, Go prophesy unto my people Israel. That's Amos replying to this dude, Amaziah. Now therefore hear thou the word of the Lord. Thou sayest, Prophesy not against Israel, and drop not thy word against the throne of the house of Isaac. Therefore thus saith the house, therefore thus saith the Lord, Thy wife shall be an harlot in the city, and thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by line, and thou shalt die in a polluted land. And Israel shall surely go into captivity forth of this land. And indeed they did. That was when the northern kingdom went into, the first diaspora. I am a simple herdsman, a dresser of sycamore. Well, well, I don't know. I've always liked that phrase. So let's see. I guess my son goes back to school on the 3rd. He starts teaching again on the 3rd of January. I ordered, I had to order some materials to fight the mice that are scampering around, have been scampering around. Although, I'll tell you, when they start eating the poison after about 36 hours to 48 hours, 50, you don't see them anymore, so that's good. When I start smelling them in about another 20 hours, 24 hours, I'll know that they're dead. I normally don't have any trouble with mice in here. This is only the third or fourth time that there have been any mice that I'm aware of in this part, in the the inhabited part of the house. Lots of mice in the basement, lots of mice in the garage. But now the raccoons have been very active in the ceiling here the last few weeks. Yeah, have fun. They finally got down all the drywall in the garage. All the drywall that was in the overhead is now down. So they really can't fuck it up much more than it was already fucked up. I need to start sort of firing up my other camera and start doing proper videos, but what can you say? Well, it's fun to be back, to be sort of low grade functional. We'll get past this god awful time of year by the grace of God. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. How is that? What political can? Yes, we can. Yes, we will. We'll get past it. All righty, folks. Joe turns 70 on the 8th of January. 70. Let's see. Our church is, set out the missive today. Masks are required. Masks are required. Elective suffocation. or non-elective suffocation, as you will. Well, have fun. Have fun with those guys. That's fine. You know, I'll keep playing. I'll keep paying my pledge because I know y'all do other things too, rather than suffocating people just for the hell of it, just to comply. Compliance suffocation. Maybe that should be the new policy of the U.S. Episcopal Church. We will complyingly suffocate people if the government tells us to. Nay, even asks us to. All righty, I'll say bye-bye now. And thank you all for listening to me now. And have a good new year. And hope you can escape into a more free area or free way of life here this year. I mean, who doesn't want more of that anyway? All righty. Bye-bye.